authors Binal Gandhi and Soneera Sanghvi, who are with us today to talk about their new book, PiggyBank to Portfolio. This book is published by Juggernaut. Let me introduce my guests for today. Binal is CEO of the Learning Curve Academy and founder of the financial education program Finance Gym. Soneera, on the other hand, worked as a lawyer in New York before moving to India and becoming assistant editor at Business India. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
I also want to welcome our hosts for this evening, Sukirti from Sipping Thoughts, Upasana from Gurgaon Moms, and I am Sidhi from Mom Imperfecto. So let's get started. Hello to both of you. So let us, just tell our audience, how did this book come about?
As part of the Finance Gym program that I run, I've interacted with thousands of young people. So just to step back, this Finance Gym program is a gamified program that teaches young people from colleges and corporates as well as schools how to invest for the long term and why it's so important to get started early. So as part of this program, I have interacted with thousands of youth. And what I've seen over and over again is that the kids who are interested in investing, who understand the importance, who want to learn more, come from families where curiosity of money has always been encouraged. And so, this was a big learning for me that the seeds of financial education are, sowed at home. Another thing that parents don't really know is that money habits start from a very early age. So there's a lot of research out there that shows that money habits like delaying gratification or planning for the future, they start as early as 6 years old. So there's a lot of things that we as parents can do for our children. And by writing this book, I'm hoping to encourage many parents to get started or get their kids started along this financial education journey as early as possible.
I'm sure. Okay, so, this book has been written after a lot of research and there are a lot of surveys that, are evident in the book. So according to you, what factors disturb the yin and yang for the young generation the most?
So, Sidhi, I'll tell you, there are multiple factors at play here. One is that as Indians, we are consuming more. And there's data to back this up that, the debt has gone up. Average debt per household in India has gone up significantly over the last 10, 20 years. It's more than 10%. And so people are borrowing more to fund their lifestyles. The other issue is social media, right? Like earlier, kids, when we were kids, for example, we didn't have access to Instagram and Facebook and people constantly showing us brands and, showing off their vacations in Maldives or wherever, in Goa. So I think now consumerism has definitely increased more. And that factor plays a huge part in our kids' lives. And of course, there's also the idea that there's digital money. So, when we were spending money and we learned about money as kids, we were actually physically spending the money. And so we had some track of it. Whereas now with digital money, I feel like when you do Google Pay or you spend on your credit card, it's harder to realize how much you're spending. So all of these factors together, I feel disturb the yin and yang in, our generation or our kids' generation.
And like you mentioned, pocket money is the first step in introducing the concept of money to children, the concept of money management. So could you briefly sum up the factors that as parents, we need to consider before we do that?
So before I go into that, let's see why pocket money first. Why give your child pocket money in the first place? And we say in the book, you can't teach your child how to play football without giving him or her a ball, right? Similarly, we've got to give our children practical experience with money. And pocket money is a nice and easy way of doing that. The other really important aspect of pocket money, and as Soneera brought up, we're in this age of plenty. when, there are so many things for us to buy or to do, spend our money on, pocket money gives a little bit of constraints to our child or children. And, they learn to make financial choices. So if we end up buying everything that they want, they're never going to learn how to make these difficult choices. If I go for a movie today, then maybe I won't be able to buy the shoes that I really want to buy tomorrow. So these difficult choices with pocket money, kids learn to make those, as they're growing up. Now, how do you give pocket money to your children? First is how much to give, right? So, that varies depending on the age. You may want to start with a small amount and then increase it as they grow older. And we do give some guidance about the amount in the book. But in general, what you do want to do is make sure that the amount is not too much. Yeah. Because if it's not too much, then, if it's too much, then, they don't have the opportunity to make choices, right? If it's too less, then there is a chance that they may feel deprived. And the point is, of pocket money is not to deprive our children, right? The point is to teach them. So, exactly. So, we want to be reasonable with the amount of pocket money that we give our children. The second bit is, once you give pocket money to your kids, what do you do with it, right? So first thing to do is to set aside some amount for savings and some amount for giving. So instead of asking them to spend the pocket money, and then if something's left over, then go ahead and save it. The right way of doing it is actually, set a goal to save and save first. And we talk a little bit more about that in the book in terms of how you can encourage your children to set up this savings habit. So once you've done that, once you've set the money aside, then give them a little bit of flexibility. Let them go ahead and spend on what they want. So that does not mean that you just look the other way, because actually what research shows is that pocket money alone does not help children develop good money habits. Mm-hmm. What we need with pocket money is parental supervision. So as parents, when we give pocket money, we need to keep track of what our kids are spending it on also.
So basically supervising on the kind of, choices that they are making.
Exactly. So whereas you don't want for every expense, to sort of be hovering on them saying, no, don't do this or don't do that. Because again, you want to allow them to make little mistakes and learn from them, right? But overall, if you feel that your child is spending too much on something that you don't approve of, then yes, please do go ahead and, talk to them about it and let them learn your thoughts about how they should be spending their money. So that's, parental supervision is really important. And the last thing I would say is when you give pocket money, make sure that you give it regularly. So try and do it every week so that, you're keeping track and of when you're giving and they're keeping track of where they're spending. So, with my daughters, both my girls are teenagers and, we have this little WhatsApp group that we call Hisab. And, when we give them money, they keep writing their expenses in this Hisab. And what I've seen is if you give money over a longer period of time, they don't keep the Hisab, they forget what they spend on. Exactly.
So at what age did you introduce pocket money for your daughters?
So this is, a really good question because my older one is 18 and I did not give her pocket money. So, I guess, sometimes I say she was my, I learned with her.
Learned. Yes, yeah. That's what happens. Huh? That's how we learn. Because I remember when I was in college, I got my first pocket money when I was in first year of college and nothing before that.
Right.
And now my daughter is 10 and I've already started giving her like bits. Oh, I've started the concept of pocket money and I'm explaining to her. So, okay. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. So with the older one, I did not give her pocket money, but with the younger one, I did learn and, I did start quite early with her. Honestly, she's so much better than my older one when it comes to keeping track of money. And part of it may be because she started earlier. Some of it could just be, her nature. But some of it possibly could be because she started earlier.
Okay, and another interesting point made in the book is that we should give like small amounts of money to our kids to invest on their own. So, could you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So this is another very, very important fact that, in fact, as part of the book, we did some research and, we surveyed a lot of parents. And one of the questions that we asked them was, what was the one topic they wish they had learned when they were much younger, teenagers? And 77% of them said they wish they had learned more about investing. So clearly, looking back, it seems smart to start early, and that is absolutely correct. So in fact, when it comes to investing, the most important thing is not necessarily the amount of knowledge that you have. So you don't need to be, the savviest of investor per se, or you don't need to have lots of money. The most important thing when it comes to investing is time. And that is something that our kids have, considering how young they are, right? And small amounts, when you start early, can make a big difference. And that's because of the power of compounding. And it's interesting because whereas we've all learned about compound interest in school, but most of us, even as adults, don't necessarily know to appreciate the power of compounding. How small amounts can become very, very large, when given time and in a few years. So in fact, in the book, we share an example of two girls who have started, one of them started 3 years earlier, both in their 20s. One started 3 years later than the other girl. And they both are investing a small amount, 2,000 rupees a month from their earnings. And as time passes by, though, there is a huge difference in their portfolio. The girl who started only 3 years earlier, her portfolio is worth over 70% more than the girl who started 3 years late. So, time makes all the difference. And that's something that our kids have. So we do need to get them started early. Now, how do we do this? There are so many ways of doing this. The first is, yes, we can tell them, but the best is always to show them, right? So many of us invest for our children when, they're much younger. So I'll give you my own example. My mother invested for my older daughter and similarly for my younger one, close to when they were born. And, it was a 10,000 rupee amount that she had put in a mutual fund. And what I did was a statement would come, every few months, and I shared it with my children as they grew up, when they were able to understand. And what they saw was the amount was growing. Now, the amount is 5 times more than what it was. So, it's 50,000 plus. And, when I show the statement to both my girls, it's they are amazed at how the money is grown. So, it's a very easy way of showing kids that the power of compounding. The other way is to have them actually do it, right? To have them invest small amounts of money. And if they are not ready, you could do it with virtual money. So there are websites where you can just create a portfolio and track it. Or you could give them a small amount and you can open a demat account on their behalf. Actually, even they can open a demat account, but you'll be their guardian. And you can invest small amounts with them. But the key here is for you not to do it by yourself, but to involve them in the process. Yes. Exactly. So I think many of us invest for our kids, but this is not necessarily a visible activity, right? They don't see us investing. So that's the key. The key is to involve them in the process. So if you're good at picking stocks, and if that's something that you do, then involve them in the process. If you're not, if you don't feel comfortable, then try and find someone in your family or your set of friends where they can spend a little bit of time. or invest in a mutual fund and just show them how your money grows, right? So lots of ways you can show them rather than talk to them about it.
Oh, these are some really, really important points that I'll also keep in mind. Soneera, I want to ask you, what are some easy money management practices that you would like to, advise to our parents?
That's basically a summary of the book. So it's going to be a long answer. But, one of the things we keep stressing over and over in the book is children will do what you do, not what you say. So the number one tip when it comes to money management is that you have to be a good role model. You want your children to save, then they need to see you saving. You want them to spend wisely, then you need to have those conversations with them where you are saying, look, we are purchasing this in, like, even just like a TV, right? That, hey, we are waiting for an Independence Day deal or a Republic Day deal, and then we're going to buy this TV so that we get it cheaper. So it shows them that you are looking for value of money and you're making a conscious decision to buy something when the price has dropped. And, and you can have conversations. For example, I'll give you my example. I use bamboo toothbrushes, which are much more expensive than the plastic toothbrushes. Mm. But I told my son, I said, this is more expensive, but it's better for the environment. So it's a conscious, purchase decision, which the more conversations we have with our kids, that's the only way they're going to learn. So that's one thing, is to role model, to be consistent in your conversations, because I feel like talking about money is not like cycling or swimming, where, you talk one time and kids get it. It has to be a continuous evolving conversation. It's one of my favorite things to tell people is it's a conversation that goes from PiggyBank till portfolio, because it's literally a journey with your child, where you're sort of hand-holding them through that process. And the other thing is, the way we spend is very visible. Kids see us spending, whether it's on movies or we're ordering dinner now since we can't go out, or we're ordering toys or any of those things. But the way we invest, the way we save, even the way we give is not visible to our children. I mean, most people I know, so many of my friends, they all donate. But it's not a conversation they're having with the children that, in Diwali, we gave whatever amount of money to someone or some cause. So if we can have these conversations more regularly with kids and show them that we are doing all these things, that we are investing, like Binal said, maybe share some investment we've made, or share our donations, or even share our savings, that, hey, Papa and I, or just we are saving for XYZ, then they immediately absorb that more than we realize they do.
True. So thank you so much, both of you, and over to you, Upasana.
Thank you so much, Sidhi, for that. It's been lovely listening. And Binal, I'm with you. I have a 18-year-old daughter as well. So I'm going to go back and hear those tips again for sure. So Gurgaon Moms is a community of moms. And this time I asked our members for questions because this is such a relevant and important topic. A friend of mine told me sometime back that you don't get rich by just earning. You get rich by investing more of your money. So I'm sure that's something you guys agree with. So I have a lot of teenager-related questions as well. Shampa, one of our members, says, my boys are naive and they just learned about SIPs and the elder one insisted on investing in one. So we started one with his money, but she feels that she needs to educate them more systemically. So she wants to understand what should she teach them and what should a teenager know at this point.
Yeah. So it's so encouraging to hear, that her teenager wanted to do the SIP, and and the parents have encouraged it. So that's just wonderful to hear. So some of the key things that we can teach our kids, and our kids need to know before they start investing or get into the world of investing. The first thing is really understanding that there are two ways to make money, right? One is to earn, and the other is to actually make your money work for you, which is, we call passive income, right? To invest it. So most of us, even with our finance gym programs, I've seen that the students are so focused on their salary, on what they're going to earn, but very less focus on passive income, how they're going to manage the money. So that's the first thing that kids need to appreciate, that there is a second way of earning, and it's equally, if not more important. And then the second thing that they need to appreciate is there are two different types of assets. And, we've talked about this, how there are so many ways to spend today. And, we see people buying all kinds of assets, new cars, new everything. And, but our children do need to realize that there are two types of assets that increase in value and assets that decrease in value. So, and they need to, we need to be able to raise awareness right there. So, for example, a car is a decreasing asset, right? It decreases, whereas it does give us utility and we enjoy it, but the value decreases over time. But, whereas it's a home or stocks, hopefully the value increases over time. So it's really important for us to be able to show that to our children, the difference between these assets. And then the third most, a very important thing, and this, when we do our finance gym sessions, we get asked this question every session that we do. Ma'am, how can we double our money very quickly? So, kids just love asking that.
Right.
And the reality is, if you want to double your money, the easiest way, the joke goes, you just fold it in half, right? But the reality is, if you want to double your money, then you have to take a lot of risk to do that. And our kids don't necessarily understand that concept. So it's really important for us to drive that concept home, that, if you want to make huge returns from your portfolio, you will have to take huge risks. And, you've got to be able to balance it out, between the risk and the return. So there's a chance to make a lot of money, but there's a chance to lose a lot of money, right? So how do we teach our children some of this? And, as Champa said, how do we teach them systematically?
Correct.
Right? So we've made quite a few suggestions in the book, but if they are younger, then you can use games like Monopoly to teach them these concepts and to really drive these concepts home. What is risk, what is return, and every step of the game, actually, it's a great way to learn about finance and investing. As they grow older, though, they should slowly be reading more, and they should be taking a few more formal classes where they do learn about the world of investing, while you're showing them how their portfolio is growing and driving home these habits of investing regularly, the power of compounding, all of that you're doing at home. But they should take some formal classes as they grow older, so that they understand the world of investing. And that's really important. There are lots of resources online. So it could be an online course that they take. It could be some books that they read. And, we do have some recommendations on the Finance Gym website that certainly parents can go and take a look at. But yes, beyond a certain point, once the parents have driven all this, these habits home, then some level of formal education is helpful.
Great. Thank you so much for that answer, Binal. Suja, another member of ours and my colleague, as well as Champa, want to know what aspects of money are relevant to discuss with teenagers, and what's the correct age to let them handle their finances independently?
So, as far as what aspects of money are appropriate to discuss with teenagers, we covered this earlier, where we believe that you should be talking to kids about money, about all parts of money, from a young age. So maybe, at 6 or 7, we just start with pocket money and giving kids, it can be a small amount, even 50 rupees a month, because at that age, it's not like they're spending much. But, as they grow older, maybe by the time they're 10, 11, 12, we can start discussing more things with them, like there's stock market, there's shares, there's bank, we have an account. So take it gradually, just based on their understanding. Also, I think by around 12, they've definitely learned interest and compound interest and simple interest in school.
Right.
So it can also match their level of understanding in that sense. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier, if parents are donating, then that's something that they can teach from day one, as soon as the kid is old enough to see that my parents are giving money, whether it is 100 rupees or more, whenever they do that. As far as children handling finances independently is concerned, if they mean in terms of pocket money, then I think what we recommend is that if children have been keeping track of their expenses, and doing so properly without losing money, and able to make wise spending decisions consistently over a period of time. So maybe over 6 months, if they're 12 or 13, then that would be a good enough age to let them handle independently. But that said, we always recommend that parents insist that children keep track of their spending. So whether it's in a diary, whether it's in an app, and there are so many apps nowadays that let you do that, whether it is in a WhatsApp group called Hisab, or, expenditure tracking or whatever.
Right.
So, they can be independent in the kind of decisions that they're making, but definitely, have them sort of have some sort of monitoring in that sense, where that they are keeping track of their money and expenses and stuff like that. And a lot of this is also subjective, because, I think kids mature differently, and kids' inherent nature is different towards money. We've interviewed so many parents who said, both my kids have grown up with the same values, same nurturing, and one is a spender and one is a saver. So there are some things that are beyond our control, but as long as parents are actively guiding children and talking to them about money management, delayed gratification, being able to say no to yourself to buy something, and saving up or waiting for it. If all of those things are happening, then definitely, I think as teenagers, they can start handling their money independently. So yes, and whereas I think that was the question, right?
Yes, absolutely. So my next question is, again from Suja, how do we teach them portfolio management and diversification of portfolios?
So again, the best way to do this is by practice. And so, it can't be a theoretical explanation of these are stocks and, this is how you do it. It has to be as real as possible. There are lots of websites, moneycontrol.com, but most stockbroking websites also have a platform where you can do it with virtual money. So you can let your kids invest virtual money in stocks that they want to, for example, or even assets, right? Like you can buy virtual gold and just track that with them over a period of time, and let them see the fluctuations in the stock market or commodity prices like gold or real estate or anything of that sort. And if you can sort of be with them on that journey when it's virtual and let them figure out those lessons for themselves, then that'll have them better prepared for when it's real money.
Great. Thank you so much for that. So my next question is from Geetu, who as a mom says she wants her kids to understand two important things. She wants them to understand that they should focus on expanding their income instead of squeezing their budgets. And also she wants them to know how to live within their means. So she wants to know, how do you inculcate that mindset that you should always have more income over your expenses?
Yeah. So that's a really good question, because as Soneera mentioned earlier, our Indian household debt has been going up dramatically and has increased dramatically over the last 20 years. One of the things that's really important for parents to do, and I know Soneera's mentioned this earlier, is making sure that they are living within their means and sharing that with their kids. So essentially parents are role models when kids are watching us all the time and they're learning from us, right? So if they see us overspending, spending beyond our means, this is something that they will think it's okay, right? So if they see us saying, no, we're going to save this time, we're not going to take a vacation because we need to save for XYZ, they will learn that. So one big and very important way to teach our children about living within their means is to actually show them and role model that behavior. The second way is also to share with them what debt actually means. And this is when they grow older, when they become teenagers, definitely if you have credit card bills that you're paying every month, let them be part of it. Teach them the cost and the consequence of debt. So now, you're seeing these on Amazon. When you go, you can buy anything and pay for it later, right? They have all these schemes that have come about, and you'll see a lot of 20-year-olds who are so happy to be earning money that they go ahead and spend on everything that their parents had told them not to buy at that time, right? But if we've ingrained these ideas and thoughts from their childhood, then they understand the cost and the consequences of debt. So it's really important for us to show them the other side.
Right.
That if we do take on more debt, what happens? What are the risks there? What are the consequences? And seeing that, maybe even by giving examples, the kids then do slowly get a sense for, yes, it is a burden that we have to understand and make plans whether we can pay it back or not, right? If we decide and choose not to live within our means and borrow to live beyond our means, right? So very important to share the cost and consequences of debt with them.
Great. Thank you so much, Vinita.
Yeah.
How do we quantify to children the right amount to earn at the beginning of their careers? Because these days there's just so many different careers, and you can't compare it with what we started out earning.
Yeah.
So how do we quantify that?
That's so true. There are so many careers for our kids to choose from, and for all of them, they pay very different amounts. So there are some careers that where the salary potential is a lot more, and there are some careers where the salary potential is not as much. But for our kids, it has to be a balance, like everything else in life. So it's about their interest, their passion, and how they balance it with, the salary potential of that career. So, maybe in certain fields, you have the highest salary potential, but if your child is not interested in those fields, it will be very difficult for your child to do well. So the key is to be able to not just use salary as a benchmark for a career, but to balance it out with what their interests are. So if they are interested in a career which has huge salary potential, that's great. If they are interested in a career which has a slightly lower salary potential, that's fine. But then in that case, parents need to stress the importance of managing the money even more, right? Because they will need investments to be able to grow and support the lifestyle that they may want, right? So in brief, it's a balance between interest and passion and the salary potential. And, in order for our children to be happy when they become adults, they really have to be able to balance those two things so that they enjoy what they're doing.
Right. Thank you again. So another question from Neha Sareen, who has much younger kids. She wants to know, how do we explain the concept of cumulative saving in a broader manner? She says the piggy bank concept works well, but that's only for saving for something that they want. How do we take it a step forward?
So, I have two kids and they're two younger kids. My son is going to be almost 8. And I remember very distinctly having this conversation with him where I said, we need to save. We all save. And he said, but why? And I said, because, we need to save money. We can't spend everything we earn. And he said, but why? Papa makes so much money. It's enough. And I was like, you don't even know how much Papa makes. Like, why do you think it's enough? But in his head, he just thought we have so much, and I was like, okay, we need to have a lot of conversations about your idea of money. But, that said, I think the pandemic has been a great life lesson. The kids have been able to see parents at home. Unfortunately, they've had to see job loss. If not job loss, they've had to see salary cuts. And if not even at home, there are very evident examples all around us of people whose businesses came to a standstill in the pandemic. So I think in some ways it's a great talking point with our kids, and to explain to them that there can be, instances where life really does come to a standstill and money is not a constant stream, that's going to flow all our lives. So we do need to save and set aside some money for a rainy day, for a contingency plan, for emergencies. Parents can talk to children. And again, obviously it depends on the age of the child and the maturity of the child, to sort of determine how deep parents want to go. But definitely, talk to them about that there can be job loss. And if there is job loss, then, we have enough money set aside that will take us through. Or if there are emergency medical expenses or hospitalization, then, these are things that we save up for, so that when there is an emergency, we are equipped for it. So I think those are conversations that we can have with children and explain to them about saving in a broader context, for sure. Also, I think for younger kids, it's a great thing to explain to them that money only grows when you save it. So, if you're making money and you've set it aside, that saving will just stay 100 rupees, for example. But if they do invest it, even if it's in a bank, and, or even if you are at home paying them 10 rupees interest on their savings, it's the only way they can grow money. And children are smart. They learn very fast that growing money is a good thing. So, I think that definitely motivates them to save in a broader context, where you say, this is not for a toy or a specific goal. We're doing this to grow our money, which we can invest to, sort of explain to them that this is how you generate more money.
Great. Thank you so much. And I'll hand over now to Sukirti.
Hi guys, hi Binal, hi Soneera. I really love the Hisab concept. I have two girls, they're 6 years old. So one of my girls always says she wants to be a shopkeeper because that's the only person she's seen us give actual money to. She hasn't seen anybody else get actual money. So she's figured out in her little mind that, shopkeepers get money. But what is the right way to start the discussion? Because, when they're so young, you often wonder and you often think and you say, oh my God, let them enjoy their childhood.
Yeah, that's such a good point. What is the right age to start? So the key is when you start with them, so start young. The first thing I guess I do want to say, and I've said this before, is that money habits start forming at a very early age, as early as 6, because they are like you, like your girls, right? They're observing what we're doing, and they're learning about money and everything else around them, right? So how do you start this discussion at this age? It's not necessarily to sit them down and say, okay, come, let's have a talk about money. But it's more about using our opportunities that we get in our day-to-day life and turning those around and making those lessons. So, just to give you an example, you take your girls to the shopkeeper. So, they're slowly learning math. They're learning how to add, subtract. So maybe, if you feel that they're old enough, they can give the money to the shopkeeper and learn to get change. So, again, in their own way, in their own age appropriate way, they're learning how to keep track of their money, collect the right change. When you take them on other shopping trips, or even a trip to the stationery store, right? It's a good time to start talking about why one pen costs 10 rupees and another pen costs 100 rupees. So, it's conversations that they can relate to when, at their age, but you are talking to them about money, right? Without even realizing what they're talking about. Exactly. Sometimes they will ask you questions like, are we rich? Maybe they've heard someone, mention that this
Especially
person
the
is
help.
rich. Exactly, right? Or they get concerned, do we have enough? So on. So, these are, many times parents get scared of these conversations and they feel, well, why let them worry at this early age? But these are actually great opportunities to start talking to them about money. And the point is, it needs to be age appropriate, but the point is that we need to keep it, positive and simple, and give it a holistic approach. So, for example, if your child asks you, are we rich? You would want to say, yeah, we do have enough. And that's really what counts, is that we have enough for our, toys, food, home, whatever you want to say. But it's a great chance to talk about poverty with our children, why some people are poor and what do we do? How do we take care of them? And why we should feel thankful for what we have. So it's a great age to start, instilling gratitude in them. So money conversations don't always have to be only about money per se, but they need to be more holistic. It's about gratitude. It's about understanding, where others are. It's about, just keeping a healthy conversation essentially with our kids, but keeping it holistic and age appropriate, of course.
Oh, thank you, because this is always concerning. But one of the ones I read, and I've actually seen it, that children that are growing up in wealthier households are more likely to be suffering from anxiety and depression compared to the national average. And I don't know, maybe because we grew up fairly well to do also, we find that children also feel they're also under a lot of pressure to maintain the same lifestyle that their parents kind of had. So we are finding this question of affluenza and keeping them grounded, where we want to give them everything, but at the same time make them independent. It's really confusing for all of us.
So this is actually, one of the main reasons that I was interested in writing this book, because when I had my son and then later my daughter, I thought to myself, how do I keep them grounded and how do I teach them the value of money? Because, our kids, we give them so much and, they rarely hear no for an answer. I remember when we were growing up, we got toys or something, fun on
Maybe
special
3 times a year.
Yeah, it was on special occasions, right? It was birthdays or Diwali or Christmas or whatever. Whereas nowadays, kids are just so used to regular vacations. If it's summer, that means we are going somewhere. If it's, if they see a toy they like, they say, can you get me the same thing? Or a lot of times, even they are not the ones saying, can you get me? We only see a toy that, someone has or we like, and we're like, oh, let me get this for my child. And so when I caught myself doing that, I said, you know what? I don't want this bubble for my child. I want them to know and realize the value of money, how hard we work to earn it and keep it and grow it. So that was one of my biggest triggers for writing the book. And you know what? One of my favorite chapters of the book is gratitude. And you know, to address the point that you're saying about anxiety or depression, uh, when we inculcate this attitude of gratitude, you know, as and Binal mentioned this earlier in her answer, is you create a sense of abundance within the children, that what we have is enough, and you know, that we should be thankful for the toys that we have, or the food that we have, or the house that we have. And I think that really goes a long way in helping the children not want more, not covet more, to not compare themselves with others, and you have this keeping up with, you know, the neighbors or friends, or that sort of attitude. If they are just content, and we teach that contentment through gratitude from a young age, that definitely helps. I think the other thing that helps is saying no. We as parents, you know, especially I feel our generation, we don't say no often enough to our children. And so if they hear that no, or even if they hear not now, maybe later, that itself teaches kids delayed gratification, you know, which is a topic we've touched upon earlier in our chat. So it sort of teaches kids patience. We've become so used to liking something, ordering it, and having it at our doorstep the next day. And again, you know, we're not spending money, right? It's just, you're literally just swiping.
That's
So
why they don't understand that concept, because they don't actually, like I said, only when I go to the shop, because they only think, Asha, they don't know that there's money in a bank that's being transferred. They think you just
exactly.
go click and it comes.
Absolutely. So, you know, just saying no, or saying not now, or making them wait, adds a very important pause between thought and purchase. And I think that is so important for our children to see and learn and develop. And you know, again, we touched upon this, but we say this in our book, which is provide enough, but don't over provide. And I think as parents, we really need to draw that line. It's a lot of conscious parenting on our end, where we take a call on what is enough and what is over that line. But somewhere we need to step back and evaluate and do that for the kids, to make sure that, you know, they're not entitled, they have their privilege in check, they're not growing up spoiled. And I think definitely just, you know, role modeling the behavior that you want them to that you want to inculcate in them, you know. So if you don't talk about brands, or you're not constantly talking about someone else's lifestyle, or comparing, you know, your family spending or whatever investing to someone else's, then kids will automatically pick up on that role modeling behavior and grow up with the similar attitudes.
No, very well said. But one, and this is not about kids, but you know, we grew up fairly, you know, middle class families. Pocket money was never talked about. Now, how do you talk about this with your husband and spouse and come to an agreement? Because this is more difficult than telling the kids. And if you give them pocket money, Dadima will buy it for them, Dadima will do it for them, you know. It's just crazy.
That's it's a really good point. And in fact, we do discuss these points in the book also, you know, because grandparents are going to indulge. So, so how do we let them indulge? Because that's their right, I feel. But also make sure that, you know, our kids are not spoiled at the same time. So, you know, definitely more conversations, even with the grandparents about this, and coming to compromises with them. So, you know, if they want to keep giving kids something, maybe they can give something that's a little more educational. Or if it's chocolate, maybe they can give, you know, some other healthier, you know, food items. So, you know, talking about it, making compromises, because definitely, you know, grandparents have a right to indulge the grandkids, and the grandkids have the right to enjoy it, right? So, but yes, different compromises. But the key is, you know, keep talking, keep the communication open.
Now, my last question. This is a little different one because, we talk a lot about equality. And one of my goals, of course, as I'm thinking about this question is, when we say equality, we mean that you need to work, you also need to provide, you need to be a provider. And especially for girls, is it how to have this conversation? Because, we are saying that, yes, you're equal, you have all this girl power, XYZ, but yet we need to instill in them, they also have that responsibility that they also need to earn and provide.
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite things to harp on. Because I'll tell you, and we are three sisters, right? So it's not like my parents discriminated between us, between a son and a daughter. But I feel like Indian parents don't have enough money conversations with their children for sure. And not just me, but all my girlfriends. I can't say all, but most of my girlfriends, we grew up with our money being managed by our fathers or our brothers or their husbands when they were old enough to get married. And it's something that I'm like, why can't women manage their own money? Why haven't we empowered women to manage their own money? And so definitely, I think if we can break that chain with our generation, with our children, where we talk to them, both girls and boys, equally about money. And there is a lot of research, there's a lot of conditioning that we don't even realize that we have, where parents talk to girls about saving and budgeting, and they talk to boys more about investing and growing money. So, we also need to break that chain where we are, unconsciously doing the same thing. And we are giving our girls the same platform, same knowledge, and saying that this is the money that you need to make and you need to manage it. No one else, for sure.
No, thank you, because this is one of the biggest ones, at least for me, that I want to make sure that somehow I'm transmitting down. But thank you, lovely book, and really provided a lot of food for thought. Back to you, Sidhi.
Thank you, Sukirti and Upasana. That was indeed an insightful session. I was totally engrossed till the end and listening to both of you. You both made some very important points, Binal and Soneera. Like, Soneera said that, money only grows when we save it. Or like Binal said, we should have more holistic conversations with our kids. I mean, these are such important, valuable, relatable lessons that, we each parent needs to know. And thank you so much for talking to us and providing us with this excellent guide for parents. It's called PiggyBank to Portfolio. Let me make a mention of it again. This book is published by Juggernaut and is available at Amazon, Flipkart, and all the leading bookstores. So go grab your copy now. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you so much for having us. We had so much fun chatting with all of you.